One thing I learned a long time ago is that you don't give a long introduction when a short one will do. And this will be a short introduction. 5 words, actually. Ladies and gentlemen, Martin Short.
Ah.
The Paikin Podcast One-on-Ones, presented by Beer Canada. Hello, handsome. How are you?
Hello, handsome. How are you?
Do you know I put a special clothing on for you today? I've never worn this on any show before.
Nor should you.
But nor should I. But you may recall 30 years ago that you helped save the Hamilton Tiger Cat football team, which was our hometown team. And they gave these shirts out, and mine amazingly still fits. And there you are. And the team is saved, and God willing, we'll go to the Grey Cup this year.
And that was organized by a little chick named Marnie Paikin.
I'm aware of her work as well, yeah. Yes. That would be my mom. Now, full disclosure here.
In the introduction, years ago, I had this unbelievably great lunch into dinner with Jack Parr, the great host of The Tonight Show, one of the originals. He did from 57 to 62. And
before
then
Johnny.
In 62, he left The Tonight Show, gave it over to Johnny Carson, and did this great, and I didn't really watch him, The Tonight Show, I was too little, but I did watch him. He had a Friday night show from 10 to 11 on NBC, just Friday nights, and he'd do an hour. And he would get people that would never do The Tonight Show. And I loved that show, and when I had dinner with him, I told him that, and he sent me all these VHSs that I still have with a labeler, you know, that old labeler, you turn it and A.
The Duotang.
Yeah. And he had done it himself. And one of them was an hour with Judy Garland. And his introduction was, the bigger the star, the smaller the introduction. And if that is true, then Judy Garland needs no introduction at all. So abracadabra, Judy Garland. And so how about that introduction?
It's true, though. It's true. And we don't need a long introduction for you because everyone knows who you are. I want everybody to know how this came about off the top because, and in the interest of full disclosure, your dad and my grandfather were buddies 70 plus years ago, which is why our families have known each other all the years.
Yes.
And you send me an email out of the blue not long ago saying, I'm adoring your podcast. How would a boy like me get on it? That's what you wrote to me.
Yes, and you said, talk to my people, and I sent in a tape to your casting.
I'm pretty sure that did not happen. But every time I have had a new program, whether it was Studio 2 or The Agenda or This Thing Now, you have always volunteered to come on, even though I know you are insanely busy. So my first question is, why the hell do you do it? You don't need to do this, and I would never ask.
First of all, I'm trying to get an agent. And secondly, Stephen, I've known you your whole life. I remember going up to Glen Eagles and seeing you and your brother playing road hockey as I was going in to drink with your mother. Ryan.
And your point is?
My point is that your mother and I had an alcohol problem.
No, you did not. Okay. No, you did not. But you were great pals. That's for sure.
And your father, of course. I adore your father more than life.
Who is 92 and thankfully still with us, which is amazing.
Miracle.
Wonderful. Now, Martin, I would love to talk to you about a range of stuff here. We're going to do some funny stuff, of course. I want to do a little serious stuff with you as well, because you have been known to opine on some of the issues of the day.
Yeah.
So seeing you wearing your Order of Canada now makes me ask, what is it like for a proud Canadian to be living in the United States these days?
Well, I mean, it is precarious. It really depends where you live in the United States. You know, I mean, I live in California. The governor is Gavin Newsom. So you don't really feel like, yes, there are civil liberties taken away, and there are raids, and there are empty Home Depots, but I can't honestly say it personally affects me, other than what I read and what you read.
Do you have, and this is a subject of some discussion in Canada right now about whether or not Canadians ought to travel in the United States. Do you have a view on whether people should take vacations down there right now or not because of everything?
Yeah, personal personal. I don't think it's. I think the idea that it's dangerous or precarious is an overrated concept. But I think people are not coming to the United States out of a personal stance against what's the government's doing there.
I do note you wear that Order of Canada every time you're on television or every time you're doing a gig. I know you do. And I know. But there's also no question that probably nobody in America knows what that thing is, and you wear it anyway. So how come?
Oh, I'm doing it for Canadians. I'm not doing it for Americans. I'm doing it for Canadians. And I think that I was once in a restaurant years ago in Toronto, and I didn't have my pin on. And Norman Jewison came over the table and said, "You got to wear the pin." And that's part of the rules, he said. And so I said, "Okay, yeah, I'll remember that, Norman Jewison." I knew him board, by the way.
Did you work with him, Jerry? You didn't do a movie with him, did you?
I knew him. I met him through the Budmans, my friends, Michael and Diane Budman.
Oh, the Roots guys.
And they were close friends with Eugene and Deb Levy.
Got it. Now, when Jimmy Kimmel was taken off the air for a little while, you pinch hit for him, right? What did you think about his being taken off the air over all of that business?
Oh, that was preposterous. That was such a horrible backfire for the intentions of the people taking him off. They fell flat on their face. And I think that Bob Igar made the right decision and knew that you cannot respond this way in the United States of America to someone who had done absolutely nothing.
Well, okay, let me follow up on that, because obviously there's a view right now that there are real costs to telling jokes in the United States right now, because if you do something that is in the view of some that's over the line, you're going to pay for it with your career. Do you feel at all more precarious these days?
Well, I don't think that's true. You're going to pay for it with your career? I don't think so.
Well,
I think
the allegation,
everything in any situation that gets heightened, they're also, the result of it is exaggerated perceptions. And that's not true. I mean, certainly this was a very unique case. There had never been an example of someone doing a joke and then getting removed from the air for 3 days. But I always knew that this would backfire for them, and it did. But I have never personally felt, but I've never been a political comedian. Steve Martin and I do shows all over the United States, in every state. And we do not do a political show deliberately, because people need a respite. They need to go and feel safe. And you don't want to go, if you're, on either party, you don't want to go and see someone and suddenly feel, oh, I thought I was going to see a comedian and laugh and have entertainment. And now I'm being lectured or made fun of because of my personal stances on political views. So, I guess I'm an idiot. No, you don't want to do that.
No, I got to say, I mean, I've seen your show 4 times, I think, and you're a very ecumenical comedian. Both of the two of you are.
Yeah.
You don't have to be in anybody's club to enjoy that show. Having said that, I do know you do get involved in politics in the United States. Do you think you will endorse a presidential candidate in time for the next election?
Yes, absolutely. I would endorse. I mean, I think there are 2 parties, and you can have issues with your own party or your own nominee as an election approaches. I think the preposterous, moronic stance that people will make is, I'm not voting for either one. That's like a moron. You have to make a decision. And if it's the lesser of 2 evils from your perception, make the decision.
Do you have a candidate yet?
No.
So you're open to persuasion still?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know our new prime minister at all, Mark Carney?
No, I don't. I don't know him at all. I only remember his name because of the Honeymooners.
No. Sorry, Martin. I think that was Art Carney.
No, but that's how I could always remember his name.
I see. Because he works in the sewers now, just like Art Carney's character did.
Ralph.
Hey, you Ralphie boy.
Hey, Ralphie boy.
Did you, I don't know how close you are with Mike Myers, but he did a commercial for Carney during, a commercial I think was fairly influential, and it was certainly very funny. Yeah. Has anybody ever approached you to do a commercial for a Canadian political party?
No, they go to Mike first, and if he says yes, they lose my number.
Would you do it if approached?
Absolutely. If I believed in that person, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to talk about fame for a second, because I will confess, as a guy who has been on television for 40 years, most days of the week, I do have people come up to me on the streets or on the subway or whatever every now and then, and they're very generous and they want to just, pitch a story idea or talk about a show. But I have been in New York City with you.
Yes.
And seen your inability to walk 2 steps in any direction because you are mobbed. People literally mob you. They want selfies. They want to, I mean, it's just incredible to the point where it's really hard for you to get away. And I guess my question is, do you ever find that too much?
It is a weird, it's like anything. You just get used to it all. I mean, I've been in that kind of situation for many decades now, and it just becomes, you know it, you expect it, you move quickly, you have certain personal rules of when that can't be done, and when you say, I'm having dinner with my kids, I'm sorry, no, I won't, and but no, it doesn't restrict me in any way. I don't say, oh, I mustn't, go to the theater because I don't do that. I don't do that.
No, but the day you and I were there together, like you could have stood there for 2 hours and people would have continued to come up to you and ask you for selfies and stuff.
Well, that's right. Yes, but that's why you don't stand there for 2 hours. You keep moving.
Got it. Well, let me ask you about some other people whom I think you and I have idolized over the years, and just get your take on some of these folks. How many times did you do The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson?
Well, it was very interesting. I was asked to do The Tonight Show as early as 1982. I was on SCTV. And I had a kind of pre-interview. Now, I was already at that point doing Dave Letterman's show. And Dave was my friend, and I thought he was the greatest and is the greatest of them all. And then I was going to, and then I want to say it's Jim McCauley, but I could be wrong. Maybe he was too important. Anyway, I had a pre-interview, and they kind of went through, and, oh, Johnny might be, no, if he seems to glaze over, don't take it personally. And I thought, oh, I don't need to do this. I'm too hip. I'll just do Letterman. And then in late 1987, now I'm in the movies, and I heard a rumor that Johnny might be retiring. And I thought, oh my God, because I adored Johnny Carson. So I thought, oh my God, if he leaves and I never did it, I will be so filled with regret. And then I realized, oh, I know why I'm not doing it. I'm too scared to do it because I idolized him. So then I did it. And my first time was in January of 1988. And I was, because I was in the movies, I was supposed to be the first guest out. And then they said, oh, we have a situation. Can you do it on the Thursday, not the Friday? Because Betty Davis is supposed to do it on Thursday, but now she can't. And she has to do it Friday. And it would mean if you did it Friday, you'd be the second guest out. And I said, I would be honored to be the second guest out and follow Betty Davis. And I did. And Johnny was just fabulous with me. And I did it, I think, 9 times in the next 4 years.
Wow. And you imitated Betty Davis in front of her.
Well, that was a bet. Rob Reiner, I had lunch with him, and he said, I'll give you $100 if you do Betty Davis to Betty Davis.
And you did. Do you have any second thoughts about that?
She had no idea who I was. So I walked out and said, and what a pleasure to meet you. And she said, thank you. Because she, again, who was it? She thought that was my voice.
Did she know? She didn't know you were doing her?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
9 times on the Carson show. That's incredible. What stays with you all these years later?
The last week where people were lining around, sleeping around the studio in Burbank, trying to get tickets,
Do you ever feel you actually kind of bonded with Johnny on a personal level?
One night I had done the show and he said, would you like to have dinner with me and Alex, you and your wife? And I said, sure, thinking, oh, please don't let that happen. I'd be too nervous. And it never happened. But Johnny liked me. I think Johnny was always, what was great about Johnny is that you just believed him. Like, he didn't laugh unless he was really amused. And he'd throw and rub under his eye. And he was so, because I think that the brilliance of that job is to be authentic, make the audience believe that if they ran into you in a restaurant, you'd be like that. And I always felt from a kid on, that's Johnny Carson, whether I was right or not,
My dad's sister Myra was a booker on that show, right?
Absolutely.
Wouldn't it have been amazing if she'd got to book you? And that would have really been Hamilton represented.
No kidding. No. That was, we talked, your aunt and I talked endlessly about that in the days.
Let me, since we're still talking about Johnny here, come back to the 30 years ago when you helped save the Hamilton Tiger Cats, which were going to go under. And you went to a lot of your friends in California and you said, I need some signed this, I need some signed that. We're going to auction it off. We're going to sign the team. How did you go, or maybe did you go to Johnny Carson and say, can you autograph a mug for me so I can save my hometown football team? How did that happen?
Oh, I think I didn't go to him personally. I reached out to, you reach out to his office. He's too big to go personally to, But, Diane Keaton signed a hat, Spielberg signed posters, and everyone signed everything. Yeah. Well, it was also great to save your hometown football team. What greater thing can you do?
It was a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And
how well did you know
the Grey Cup?
Well, God willing, they're going to go to the Grey Cup. We'll see. They're in a bit of a slump right now, which I'm not happy about. But anyway, Martin, Diane Keaton, how well did you know her?
Oh my God, I knew her I met Diane in 1991, and everyone was in love with her. You could not be in the same room without Diane and not fall in love with her. It was because she was kind of Annie Hallish, and she was so funny and so hip and so cool. One time, so I was very close friends with her. Let's put it this way: at her AFI, I was seated beside her at the head.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Okay. It's funny. I've known you for a long time, but I don't really know your showbiz life very much. I didn't know if the two of you were close.
Oh, very close. Well, we made 2 movies together. And we actually made, and then in 2000, during COVID, we did Father of the Bride 3-ish for a charity on the internet. I guess it was it YouTube? I can't remember who it was for, but it was just, for the internet. And I adored Diane. We had dinners. She was at my house 1 million times for dinners. And one time it was during the OJ trial in 95. We were making Father of the Bride 2. And we were in the makeup trailer, and I'm doing jokes and making noise. And she's trying to listen to the TV. Got her hair in curlers, and her head's against the television, trying to listen. And I'm doing jokes, and Steve's laughing, and Steve's doing jokes. And finally she turned to me and said, Marty, if you don't shut up, I'll blow you. And she got mixed up, And Steve said, Diane, I think you have to work on your instinct.
I won't ask how that turned out.
No.
Okay, let's talk about Letterman, because you were interested.
I kept making noise, okay.
You said earlier that you thought Letterman was the best of all time at a talk show host job. And, I would have thought you said Johnny, but tell me why you think it was Dave.
Well, No, I'm not being literal. I think they're all spectacular. I love Jimmy Kimmel. I love Fallon. I love them all. They're all my buddies, you know. But Johnny was so influential because when you're 12, that's when you're the most open to it all, you know. But Letterman was the kind of guy, and Steve Martin will say this, and Jerry Seinfeld will say this, and Tom Hanks will say this. If you did well on Letterman, you felt great about yourself for 2 weeks afterwards, because he was so good at it, and so funny, and so smart, and so hip, that you just kind of, to win Dave over, to make him laugh, was an awfully great sense of self-accomplishment.
And you worked hard at that, right? You put a lot of effort into coming up with a bit every time you went on that show.
I've always done that because I think that my agenda in general, whether it's making movies or doing anything, is to be unbelievably prepared. And because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if the audience might not be very good. The host might be off that night. But you want to be able to go home and say, okay, you wanted it to be a 10 out of 10. It was a 7 out of 10. But you know what? I'm toasting myself with a glass of champagne because there's nothing else I could have done. So I would always send in reams of pages and jokes and things and prep. And then you can walk out gunning for bear. And in Dave's case, he would hit about 30% of what I'd prepared. One time I was on and he said, oh, tell the Tony Randall story. I said, Dave, I was on 5 weeks ago and told the Tony Randall story. He said, I know, but no one's listening.
How many times do you think you did Letterman?
Oh, I think I did that about 50 times. Because I would do also cameos. If I was on Broadway doing a show, I'd do the top 10. But I did it a lot. From 82 until he went off in 2015, I better did it 50 times. In fact, there's actually a thing on YouTube of he and Paul introducing a montage of all my appearances.
I've seen it. Yep.
Yeah.
Again, strange kind of question, but you two seemed on television like you were really great friends who would hang out together, go for dinner together, all that kind of stuff. Did that happen?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I will have dinners with Dave and Paul. The three of us will have great dinners.
So he certainly pretends to be very antisocial. Is he really in real life?
You know, I don't know him well enough to know if he's antisocial or not, but he's selective. Selective.
Okay.
Yeah.
You and Conan O'Brien seem to have a thing whereby you come on, insult the hell out of him, and he laughs and takes it.
Well, I mean, I sound repetitive and creepy, but I am close friends with a lot of these people, and Conan is, you know, my longtime buddy, and he looks forward to the insults, and you know, when I say he looks like a freeze-dried Prince Harry, he just loves that more than anyone, you know.
Now, again, it seems all very spontaneous when you're doing it, but how much of what we see on the screen is, you know, planned ahead of time, and how much is in the moment?
You know, certainly the opening is planned. You know, I'm not going out there and just going to wing it. But then what happens is people get in a role, and he says something, and I say something, and we say something, and we say, you know. One time I was on his show, and I'd moved down the couch. This is the old show. And an actress came on, and she said, you know, she was like a model who now was doing her first TV movie. And he asked her the question, this won't work on podcast because it's visual, but he asked her, so you mainly model, but now you're having to learn lines. Is that a great experience? Something like that. And I nodded like, how profound. And he looked at me, he saw me do it, and he started to laugh as she was answering. And then at commercial break, he stood up and walked around the couch and he said to me, "I'm just trying to make a living, asshole."
Very good. Very good. I've heard it said numerous times that you are literally the best talk show guest of all time, in part because you plan so much, in part because you are you. If I asked you that question, who do you think the best talk show guest of all time is? Who would you say?
Oh, well, I mean, Robin Williams is fabulous. Steve Martin is fabulous. Anyone who kind of takes over, but it's a fine balance, because I have done appearances on talk shows in my life that when I see it back, I think, nope, too much. You had funny jokes, but it didn't become a conversation. And so it is a balancing act of making sure that there is a give and take, because you're dealing with very talented people. You're talking about all these, and Seth and everyone is so bright and talented. So if you just come out and don't let anyone speak, that's an imbalance.
Well, I remember you had a daytime talk show yourself, and so you know what that job requires.
Right.
The greats make it look effortless, but I guess you can tell us, how hard is it really to come out there for an hour every day and be brilliant and funny and etc.?
Well, I particularly did an insane approach to it, where I was, doing sketches and makeup and glick and prosthetics, and I'd do my segment opening morning meetings in the makeup chair as they're putting, latex on my face. I mean, it was, and I think by the end, when Carson was doing it, he'd show up around 1, And so I think that there is an ease to it that you get used to. I remember I did a series with James L. Brooks, and he said to me that, he had done the Mary Tyler Moore Show, all the classics, Phyllis and all these shows. But he said, season 3, second episode of Mary Tyler Moore, he turned to Ed Weinberger, his partner, and said, "I think we figured it out." So it takes time to know exactly the right rhythm. But it's daunting. It's endless. I guess I filled in for Jimmy Kimmel last year, and at the end of that week, I thought, I'm glad it's just a week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I want to ask you about this guy over my left shoulder, Frank Sinatra, greatest singer of all time.
Yes.
You met him.
I did.
How'd that go?
I was at a party. It was at a party at the producer George Slaughter's house. And the premise was you met there, and then a bunch of celebrities got on a bus. We went to the Greek Theater. We were in the front rows. We saw Sinatra. Shirley MacLaine opened, then Sinatra. And then we went back to George Slaughter's house for a party. And at the party, Dinah Shore was there and said, "Hey, do you want to meet Frank?" I said, "Yeah." So I went up to him and I said, "Mr. Sinatra, I'm Martin Short, and you have no idea, you have no concept of how big a fan I am of yours." And he said, "I think I do."
I bet he did.
Yeah, I think he'd heard it before.
Yeah. Did he know you?
He said, now Paul Schaefer maintains that I'm making this up because he said he didn't speak like he spoke in Guys and Dolls. He said to me, "I know well of you and you're marvelous."
Oh.
Yeah.
Hell, take that.
Yes, absolutely.
Did you guys ever perform together?
I've now been around for a bit.
Right. Did you ever perform with him?
No.
Did you ever try to?
No. There was no opportunity to. No one was saying, "Hey, do you want to open for Frank?" No, I never got that call.
I mean, that would have been, right?
But that would have been the greatest moment of one's life, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it'd be pretty cool. Pretty cool.
But, it is interesting. I mean, Frank was lovely that night. We didn't have a long hang, but it is that old adage that, do you really want to meet your idols? what if they disappoint you? Then you can't listen to the albums anymore.
And did he disappoint you?
No, he was absolutely charming and lovely and fun. I said
Great.
to him, I did get mixed. I was so nervous. He said, "What are you drinking, kid?" And I said, "Whatever you're drinking, Frank." And the bartender, he turned to the bartender and said, "Give him a Jack Daniels." And the bartender said, "Straight up or on the rocks?" And I thought he said, "Straight up or relaxed." So I said, "I'll have it relaxed." And he said, "Straight up or on the rocks?" So I thought, have I pissed off Frank? But no, it wasn't. And then I remember Dinah Shore came up and said, "I'm leaving, Frank. Are you driving to Trancas?" "Yeah." "You want to borrow my pistol?" She said, "I don't need a pistol, Frank." And it was kind of sexual. I was just listening and excited.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Well, Marty, take a swig of juice or whatever you've got there for a second, because to keep podcasts on the air, we actually have sponsors, and I have to do an ad read here.
All right.
And then I come out of this ad read with a question for you. Okay. This is an ad read about the ongoing affordability crisis in Canada that no doubt affects everybody who's watching or listening to this. And Canadians have the right to know whether their governments are making life more or less affordable. The organization representing Canada's brewers wonders if you knew that in Canada, 46% of the price of beer is government taxation.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, now you do. Canada imposes higher taxes on beer than any of the other great beer nations. So that's higher than Germany, Belgium, Mexico, the US, the UK, Brazil, Denmark, or Ireland. At 46%, it's higher than any country in the G7. And Canada's already high beer taxes go up annually and automatically. Beer Canada says the powers that be hope you won't notice. They call it sneaky. They think it's automatic and therefore not democratic. And now that you know you can do something about it, Beer Canada would like you to help stop this practice of automatic beer tax hikes. So go to the website hereforbeer.ca. That's hereforbeer.ca, and ask yourself, why does the best beer nation have the worst beer taxation? That is a message in the interest of fairness and transparency from our friends at Beer Canada. And it prompts me to ask you, Mr. Short, if you had the opportunity to sit down and have a beer with anybody ever at any point in history, who would it be?
Oh, my God.
Well, God would be a good choice.
God would be a good hang. I would say I'd be intrigued to have a beer with Marlon Brando. I would have intrigued to have beer with John F. Kennedy.
What would you ask Brando?
Oh, I don't know. I just ask him. So like when you did that scene, I'd be like Chris Farley, the Chris Farley show. So like when you did that scene and on the waterfront and the glove dropped and then you put even Marie Saint's glove on. I mean, it was did you know how great that was when you were doing it? I'd be a moron.
Got it. Okay, I want to ask you about some of the stuff you're currently doing. For example, The Match Game, which is the reboot of the show that we watched with Gene Rayburn when we were kids.
Yes.
Why'd you want to do that?
Oh, I think it's always intriguing to do something that you have no idea if you can pull it off at this stage. I mean, if someone says, "Hey, do you want to do a live show somewhere?" You can do. I've done that endlessly. How about you do a show with Steve Martin? Well, I do that. How about you act in a movie or a play? But doing something that required a lot of improvisation. We deliberately would film long so that the funny people and the celebrities would feel loose and could improvise, and we'd edit the stuff that didn't work. So that was the challenge of that. A loose form.
Are you enjoying it?
Well, no, it's a one-off. It was a summer show. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. I mean, I've sent you emails about this. I don't know 3/4 of the people because I'm just not in touch with popular culture enough that you have on the show. But your shtick with them is hysterical, and it's mostly you sort of putting them down or putting them in their place.
Yeah, but there's Kevin Nealon and Adam Pally and they're really hilarious people. Yeah. Selena was on, and Andrea Martin. Pretty great people.
Yeah. When you decide what you want to do, or perhaps more pointedly, what you don't want to do, what you want to pass on. What are the most important criteria for you at this stage of the game?
Well, I think if it's, it becomes pragmatic in a way. If it's a movie script and it's not very good, you don't do it. If it's a movie script and it's pretty good and the director, you YouTube the director, you Wikipedia the director, and you realize his last 7 films have all been bad, you pass. So it's really about who you're going to hang with. If I heard that someone was difficult or could be mean, I would pass in a second. My epitaph is, the thing is that I know about myself, my epitaph has been written. There's nothing, that's going to change that. So it's not like this could be the break I'm looking for. So what you're looking for is ease, fun. When we do Only Murders in the Building, one of the criteria, one of the big attractions of that show, beyond the enormous creative elements of it, from writing and directing, is that everyone, it's considered the happiest, loosest, most fun set of any show in New York. And so that's a big part of it. The first day we shot, I was driving to work and I had never met Selena Gomez because it was COVID. So we would do read-throughs on Zoom. And I'm driving to work and thinking, what is Selena Gomez? What if she's mean? What if she's late? If she's late, Steve will do one season. That's it. Because Steve has never shown up anywhere for any appointment without being 5 minutes early. And so that would drive him through the roof. And then I went into the makeup room and she was already there. And I looked at her and we talked for 2 minutes. I went, I'm in love. She was this ooze, this sweetness. And of course, she'd been in show business since she was 15 or 14. So she was an old pro,
Well, the rapport shows on the screen, and I'm going to push back a little bit on your claim that your epitaph has already been written, because my hunch is when you were younger, you probably didn't think at the age of 75, I will have the biggest hit show of my life. So you kind of never know, right?
I assume that.
I mean, it is kind of amazing that given all the stuff that you've done, you've got the biggest hit show of your life at this stage of your life.
Yes, it's absolutely unusual. It is. But that's actually the draw of show business. That's why, young actors who struggle and now they look in the mirror and say, oh, I'm 35, what do I do? They're still drawn to stay in because it is a bit of a lottery. You don't know. Years ago, I was watching, back to Johnny Carson, I was watching Tony Randall. This is mid-70s. I'm 15. And he was in The Odd Couple. And Odd Couple was about 4th year of being a big hit. And Johnny Carson said, so Tony, how long do you think you'll stay with The Odd Couple? And Tony just stared at him and said, John, that's the dumbest question I've ever heard you ask anyone. I will stay with The Odd Couple as long as it's a hit, because hits are flukes. And I think one of the, mistake that any young actor makes who's in a hit early on is the assumption that it's going to happen again and again and again. It may only happen once. You can be very good in something. You can have the greatest role in something, but if no one sees that thing, it's not a hit. So a hit is a home run, as we just saw at the Blue Jays game the other night.
Do you know, or I guess I should say, how far into doing it do you know whether it's a hit or not?
You don't. You go to dailies, and you look, and mainly you go to dailies initially just to see, is the director any good? I'm talking about a movie now. Is the director any good? When he said, we're moving on, should he have moved on? Because the actor's job is to give a fast take, slow take, big, small, different levels of performance. And if you're playing a character, even like Frank in Father of the Bride, you can't look like you're trying to be funny. You just have to be the eccentric character and let the audience decide if it's funny. But in Only Murders in the Building, again, you didn't know it was going to be a hit, but I'm an executive producer, so you'd look at a rough cut and go, ooh, this works.
Mm-hmm.
I hope people like it, but at least creatively it works.
I know you were in that 2-part documentary about Steve Martin, but did you actually see it as well?
Yes, I did.
You did. Okay. I'm going to offer an opinion, and then I'd like your view on this. Because watching you two together in that documentary, I think I gained some insight into why you two are so great on stage together and why you have such a great friendship. And that is, you genuinely make him laugh. And he must know a lot of people in his world whom he tolerates, but he adores you. I mean, it seems to me, as I look at the two of you together, because you genuinely can make him laugh. Am I onto something here?
Well, I mean, I think it's not complex, really. I mean, Steve and I are just very close friends. And I think you have friends that are not in show business who make you laugh. So you like them for that reason. And maybe that's the initial attraction. But then other qualities take over, and that becomes an important thing. You can have a friend that makes you laugh who cheats on his wife every third week, and you're not going to be close with that person. Mm-hmm. Or can make you laugh, but is not forthright in his judgment on human behavior. You're not going to be close with that friend. So I think, Steve and I have been close friends for 40 years now. We've made 5 movies. We've done 5 years of a television series. We've done 1,000 appearances on stage, and we vacation together, and our families are close with each other, and there's a long history.
No, I guess I should have specified it. It might start with the laughter, and it's certainly gone on beyond that. But it felt to me watching the two of you together and watching the spontaneity with which he laughs at stuff that you do. I just thought, okay, of course the friendship is deeper and more and beyond humor.
Well, I think it's like anything. It's like if you go out with someone and initially you say, boy, she's pretty, but you don't marry her for that reason.
Okay. Got it. Who makes you laugh?
Steve makes me laugh. Eugene makes me laugh. Conan makes me laugh. I have a lot. Christopher Guest. Billy Crystal. I have a lot of funny friends. You do? Yeah, I do. And I sometimes will sit in a restaurant, Deb Devine, who is hilarious, Eugene's wife, Levy's wife, said that on her gravestone she wanted to just say, I was at 100,000 funny dinners. And I'll sometimes sit in a restaurant and I'll hear a bunch of people talking about, and that merger, I found that we knew that the transaction was going to be from that corporate. And I think, oh my God, what if I was at that table? I remember Jamie Lee Curtis once told me years ago that she'd be sitting at a table with her mom, Janet Leigh, and her stepfather, and they'd just be quietly eating dinner, the three of them, and she'd look over and see a table of people laughing hysterically. And she'd think, how do I get to that table? And she married Christopher Guest. Cool. Martin, I have one last question for you, and admittedly, it's a bit touchy-feely, so here we go. Yeah. You've done movies, you've done TV, you've done Broadway, you sing, you've traveled all over the world, you have kids, you have grandkids, you have loved and been loved by some wonderful women in this world, and maybe the greatest gift of all, especially in this day and age, you can make people laugh. What else could possibly be on your bucket list? I have no bucket list. I have no bucket list. I at 75, if you haven't done it, there's a reason. I've never directed. a stage show or a movie. But that's because I don't want to. It's not like, geez, someday. It's just simply not that. It's to me, like directing. Years ago, Steven Spielberg asked me to direct something for DreamWorks, and I thought about it, and I thought, no. Steven was the 9-year-old with a camera and, wanting to be, I was up my attic wanting to be Sinatra, doing my imaginary television shows. So that makes sense that I'm in front of the camera. So I've never been to certain countries because I don't really want to go to those countries. It's not like, and someday. So I don't know. I don't honestly have a bucket list. I think I've had such a fortunate life from a show business standpoint that I think that there's very little that I could say I haven't done. I just love doing it. I enjoy performing. I enjoy acting. I love the different disciplines that it requires. The goal, because every time you start something new, no matter who you are, if you're, Leo DiCaprio or you're anyone, it's an empty canvas. It's a new mountain to climb, and you wonder if you can pull it off. And when you do, there's a great deal of satisfaction.
Keep climbing, Marty.
Love you, Stephen.
Love you back. And I love the fact that you still want to have these conversations with me from time to time.
Oh, I will do
Thank you so much.
Anytime. I'm going to see your brother tonight, by the way.
Good. Someone should, spend some time with him these days. He's not a very interesting person.
Believe me, I've been there.
Peace and love, Marty. See ya.
Peace and love.